Have you ever wondered what happens in a man's mind when you simply don't react? When you don't flinch at his moods, don't chase his approval, and don't absorb his emotional storms? I'm sure there's something almost unsettling about it for him. It's not anger. It's not confrontation. It's not even rejection. The one thing that hits him harder than anything else is a woman who remains unshaken, unfazed, and emotionally secure despite the challenges he might throw her way. Hi, it's Vernon again. Today, I'm going to share with you why this one thing, this ability to remain composed, hurts him more than anything else. And I'll explain how this strength can impact your relationship in ways you might never have expected. 5 responses that men simply cannot handle, no matter how confident they appear. Before we dive into those powerful responses, make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell so you never miss valuable insights on relationships, personal growth, and more. Let's explore the first powerful response a man cannot handle and how it disrupts his perception of the relationship. This will shift the way you view your emotional strength and its incredible impact. Thing number 1: when you don't chase his validation. How often do you find yourself seeking approval from others, especially a man you're interested in? We all crave validation, that reassurance that we're good enough, that we matter. But the less you chase his validation, the more you'll captivate him. I'm not talking about being indifferent or detached. That's not the point. It's about not placing your worth in his hands. When you stop seeking validation from him, something remarkable happens. You give off an energy that says, "I am enough, exactly as I am." You no longer need his approval to feel good about yourself. And that, my friend, is when you become irresistible. Men, especially the ones who are genuinely interested in a meaningful relationship, are drawn to women who are secure in themselves. When you don't chase his validation, you shift the dynamic. It's not about you trying to prove your value or constantly seeking his affirmation. Instead, you stand tall in your own sense of worth, and that independence is a magnet. Think about it. When someone is constantly trying to win your approval, it can start to feel exhausting. It's like they're seeking your validation because they don't believe in themselves fully. But when you stop chasing, when you just live your life and allow him to see that you're already complete, the power dynamic shifts. You no longer need his validation to feel complete, and that is both empowering and magnetic. You see, when you don't flinch, when you remain steady in your own self-worth, it creates a feeling of mystery and intrigue for him. He starts to wonder, what makes her so confident? Why isn't she seeking my approval? And in that moment, he's no longer in control. And here's the kicker. The more you stop chasing his validation, the more he starts to wonder what you're up to. He'll want to know more, and that curiosity is what keeps him coming back for more. Research from Dr. Helen Fisher's work on attachment shows that men often use women's reactions as emotional barometers. When we stop seeking their validation, they lose this reference point and must confront their own internal emotional landscape. This can be deeply unsettling. You shift from being the one who needs to the one who chooses to engage. This reversal of emotional dynamics creates what psychologists call cognitive dissonance, and it's incredibly powerful. Here's how this looks in daily life. You compliment yourself instead of fishing for compliments. You pursue your interests, whether he shows enthusiasm or not. You express your opinions without his agreement. You exist fully in your own right. Notice this week when you catch yourself seeking validation. Instead, try validating yourself first. See how this simple shift changes not just his responses, but your own sense of inner strength. This foundation of self-validation becomes even more powerful when combined with something that might surprise you: your response to his emotional chaos. And that's where our next insight takes us deeper. Thing number 2. When you remain calm in his chaos. Maybe you've tried to soothe him, explain things, or even take on his stress for him. But when you remain calm in his chaos, you become far more powerful than any reaction could ever make you. When a man is in a storm of emotions, the last thing he needs is another source of chaos to add to the mix. But the woman who can remain calm and composed in the face of his emotional upheaval, now that's a woman who commands respect. She doesn't let his mood swings pull her into the storm. Instead, she becomes the anchor, the steady presence he subconsciously craves. It's not about being cold or indifferent. It's about keeping your emotional equilibrium. You don't absorb his chaos or get swept up in his frustration. You allow yourself to stay grounded, unaffected by the storm around you. This doesn't mean you're not empathetic or compassionate. It just means you know when to hold your space and not get lost in his emotional turbulence. The beauty of this approach is that it's not about doing anything for him. It's about choosing to show up with grace, calm, and poise regardless of what he's going through. You don't try to fix him. You don't try to control the situation. You simply hold your calm and offer him the stability he lacks. And this, my friend, is one of the most irresistible qualities you can have. When one person maintains a calm, coherent emotional state, it can actually influence others to regulate their own emotional responses. But here's the key. This only works when the calm comes from genuine inner peace, not suppression. You refuse to be pulled into his emotional storm. You model emotional regulation. You create space for him to self-regulate. And most importantly, you maintain your own emotional sovereignty. For men, this can be deeply confronting. Many men unconsciously use emotional outbursts to discharge stress, expecting the women in their lives to either absorb that energy or reflect it back. When you do neither, when you remain a calm, steady presence, it forces them to find other ways to process their emotions. This doesn't mean becoming cold or disconnected. You can be compassionate without being reactive. You can acknowledge his feelings without adopting them. You can offer support without losing your center. The woman who doesn't flinch during emotional chaos becomes what I call an emotional anchor. She provides stability, not through reaction, but through presence. This is incredibly attractive to men, even as it challenges their usual patterns. The next time someone around you is in emotional turmoil, experiment with remaining centered. Notice how your calm presence affects not just them, but your own sense of inner strength. How do you handle situations when his emotions get the best of him? Share your experience in the comments on how to be the strong, steady woman who knows how to navigate any storm. while remaining calm in his chaos demonstrates immense strength and emotional maturity. There's another powerful quality that truly sets you apart, something that deepens the connection even further. Thing number 3, when you don't absorb his emotions. Before we go deeper, I'll connect what we've explored so far. We've seen how not chasing validation shifts emotional power, and how remaining calm during chaos creates stability. But there's something even more fundamental happening here: the refusal to absorb another person's emotional state entirely. How often do you find yourself taking on someone else's emotions? Maybe he's upset, frustrated, or angry, and suddenly you feel like you're carrying that weight too. It's so easy to absorb someone else's mood, especially when you care deeply about them. But here's the thing: when you don't absorb his emotions, you stand in your own power. This doesn't mean being cold or indifferent to his feelings. On the contrary, it means you can empathize and understand without internalizing his stress or negativity. You remain separate from his emotional state while still offering your support. When you don't absorb his emotions, you become the one who helps him navigate his own feelings, rather than being swept away by them. Carl Jung called this individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are, separate from others' projections and expectations. When you stop absorbing his emotions, whether it's his stress, his anger, his sadness, or even his joy, you force both of you to develop individual emotional strength. This can be deeply unsettling for men who have become accustomed to women serving as emotional processors for the relationship. Mirror neuron research shows that we naturally tend to mirror others' emotional states. But mature women who have developed emotional sovereignty learn to recognize this mirroring without being controlled by it. They can empathize without merging, understand without absorbing. This creates what I call emotional differentiation. You become two separate individuals choosing to connect rather than one merged entity where boundaries are blurred. For men, this can initially feel like rejection, but it ultimately creates the possibility for authentic intimacy. So when someone shares strong emotions with you, try this. Listen fully, respond with compassion, but notice where their emotions end and yours begin. Don't absorb what isn't yours to carry. This emotional independence is not about being unfeeling or disconnected. It's about boundaries, knowing when to listen, empathize, and when to let go. You can support him, be there for him, but you don't need to become him. You don't need to feel his anger, his sadness, or his stress to show that you care. In fact, keeping your own emotional energy intact allows you to support him in a more effective, calm, and grounded way. And that's where our next insight reveals something truly profound about feminine strength.
Thing number 4. When you hold your boundaries without explaining. When you don't absorb his emotions, you naturally develop clearer boundaries. And when you hold those boundaries without over-explaining, something profound happens in the masculine psyche. My friend Charlotte discovered this at 61 during her second marriage. Her new husband, Robert, had a habit of making last-minute social plans without consulting her. For months, Charlotte would either reluctantly agree or spend considerable energy explaining why she couldn't or wouldn't participate, detailing her commitments, her energy levels, her need for notice. One Friday evening, Robert announced that his brother was coming for the weekend, and they'd be going fishing early Saturday morning. In the past, Charlotte would have launched into explanations about her Saturday plans, her garden club meeting, her need for preparation time. Instead, she simply said, "That won't work for me. You two enjoy yourselves." Robert was completely thrown off. "But why not?" he pressed. "What are you doing that's so important?" Charlotte smiled peacefully and repeated, "It won't work for me. Have a wonderful time with your brother." She offered no further explanation, no justification, no defense of her position. This is what happens when you hold boundaries without explaining. You force others to respect your no as complete in itself. You stop teaching people that your boundaries are negotiable. You demonstrate that you don't need external approval for your internal decisions. When we extensively justify our boundaries, we unconsciously invite negotiation. But a boundary held with quiet confidence communicates something entirely different: sovereignty. Men often respond to unexplained boundaries with initial frustration, then grudging respect. There's something deeply attractive about a woman who knows her own mind and doesn't need to defend her knowing. It suggests an inner authority that's both rare and magnetic. This isn't about being cold or unreasonable. It's about understanding that your no is complete. Your comfort level doesn't require justification. Your limits don't need external validation. Your boundaries are not up for debate. Practice saying, "That doesn't work for me. I'm not comfortable with that. I've decided not to." Then stop talking. Don't justify, don't defend, don't over-explain. Let your boundary stand on its own authority. What Charlotte discovered, and what many mature women learn, is that this kind of boundary holding actually enhances relationships. It creates respect, clarity, and authentic engagement. When people know you mean what you say, they treat your words and you differently. Hit that like button and make sure to save this video so you can come back to it anytime you need to practice holding your boundaries with confidence. The next time you find yourself about to over-explain, remember Charlotte's story and choose to stand firm in your no, without justifying, without defending. The woman who doesn't flinch when holding boundaries teaches others how to treat her through her actions, not her explanations. She demonstrates self-respect so clearly that others can't help but respect her too. Try notice the urge to justify or defend your position, then consciously choose not to. Observe how this changes both your internal confidence and others' responses to you. But what happens when you embody the ultimate expression of not flinching?
Thing number 5. When you don't need him to be your hero. The final piece of this puzzle might be the most challenging for both women and men to understand. It's about what happens when you genuinely don't need rescuing, and how this affects the deepest parts of masculine identity. Joseph Campbell wrote extensively about the hero's journey, but there's a lesser discussed truth. Many men derive significant identity from being needed, from solving problems, from being the solution to someone else's distress. When you don't need rescuing, it can shake the very foundation of how they see themselves in relationship to you. It's natural for women to want a man who will be there for them, who will support them, and who can rise to the occasion when needed. But here's the key: you don't need him to fix you, rescue you, or be your knight in shining armor to feel valued. When you stop expecting him to be your hero, you stop putting the weight of your happiness, fulfillment, and emotional well-being solely on his shoulders. Instead, you embrace the fact that you are already whole. You have your own strengths, your own ambitions, your own goals, and your own life that doesn't require someone else to complete it. While men may initially feel threatened by a woman who doesn't need rescuing, they're ultimately deeply attracted to her strength. The woman who can handle her own life but chooses to share it is infinitely more appealing than one who needs to be saved. When he sees that you are whole on your own and that you don't need him to complete you, he'll begin to respect you more deeply. He knows you can stand on your own, and that makes him want to contribute in a meaningful way, not out of obligation, but out of genuine desire to be your partner. This dynamic is what creates emotional equality in a relationship. You both show up as complete individuals who support each other, rather than one person relying on the other to be their source of everything. As we reach the end of our exploration today, I want you to understand something profound about the woman who doesn't flinch. She isn't cold, distant, or uncaring. She's simply learned the ancient art of emotional sovereignty, the ability to love without losing herself, to care without carrying others' burdens, to be present without being reactive. These 5 responses, when you don't chase his validation, remain calm in his chaos, refuse to absorb his emotions, hold boundaries without explanation, and don't need him to be your hero, they all stem from the same source. A deep knowing of your own worth that doesn't fluctuate based on others' responses. The reason men can't handle these things isn't because they're weak or wrong. It's because these responses challenge patterns that have existed for generations. Patterns where women's emotional reactivity served as a kind of emotional regulation system for everyone around them. When you break these patterns, when you become truly unshakable in your own center, you force everyone around you to develop their own emotional strength. This can be initially unsettling, but ultimately it creates healthier, more authentic relationships. So choose to embody the woman who doesn't flinch, not as a strategy or technique, but as an expression of your authentic strength. You've lived long enough to know what truly matters. You've experienced enough to trust your own judgment. You've grown enough to stand firmly in your own truth. The woman who doesn't flinch isn't reacting against anything. She's responding from something deeper. She's responding from decades of wisdom, from hard-won self-knowledge, from the unshakable foundation of knowing exactly who she is. If this resonated with you, like and share this video with other women who might benefit from this understanding. Don't hesitate to subscribe my channel for more insights from the Women After 60 Love and Life playlist. I'm Vernon, and see you again.